Hey guys, it's Jeff, Director of Training at Patriot Training Center. Today I'm going to bring you a video review of the new Glock 19 MOS, COA, COA, whatever they call it. I'm not 100% sure. What I do know is it's a collaboration between Glock and Aimpoint, and that kind of gets me excited, but it didn't at first. So let me tell you a little bit about this gun, why I didn't get excited at first, and now that I've got it in my hands, why I am excited about this gun and what I really think about it. So here at PTC, we do a lot of training classes. We have pistol mounted optic classes. We have regular pistol courses. We have rifle, shotgun, reality-based training, active shooter events. But one of the guns we have and we use a lot is the Glock 19 MOS with a Hollow Sun 507C mounted on that gun. So a lot of our students are running those during class. And this was released recently, and I wasn't sure what I thought about it. But I'm going to talk a little bit about this gun and what makes it different and why I do like it after I've had it in my hands a little bit and got to take it out to the range and shoot it quite a bit. So first and foremost, this gun was built and had this slide milled from the factory to fit this Aimpoint COA optic. Aimpoint, one of the leaders in the industry when it comes to electronic optics. They are known for their phenomenal quality across the board, and they've had a P2, an Acro P2 optic for pistols out for quite some time now, and this is the evolution of that optic, and it comes direct milled onto this slide. Why is that important? It's important because if we buy a traditional gun that it's optic ready from the factory, a lot of times that makes us have to use what we call a plate system to actually put the optic on the gun and use it. So meaning what we'd have to do is we would have to buy an optic, find the correct plate, mount the plate down onto the slide, and then mount the optic onto that plate. And what that does is you're just stacking stuff, and so your tolerances are getting stressed a little bit, and it's not the best way to actually mount an optic on a gun. It works very well. However, when you can directly mill the optic onto the gun, that makes life better because there's less points of failure. So what really got me interested in this gun in particular is what they're calling the A-cut. So when you look up close at this gun right here, what you will see is that this optic is actually in the front and back here in the rear is wedged into the cut, and then the mounting screws mount through the rear sight, clamping this gun down and putting it very tight inside of this mounting system. And that thing is in there. So it came mounted for me from the factory, and I have not touched it because I want to know how solid this mounting platform is, because that's incredibly important if people are going to trust their life with this gun. And so far, after a few weeks with the gun and almost 1,000 rounds now, I can tell you this has not moved. It's been incredibly stable, and that's usually kind of the threshold for me. What I'm looking for is if my optic can make it through 1,000 rounds on the range without moving, without loosening up, I feel like that's good, and it's probably going to be good for quite some time. So this optic in this system is getting close to that threshold that I like to hit. So I'm pretty confident in saying so far that this is I think it's gonna be a solid option for us people that wanna put optics on our pistol, but time will tell. I'm not ready to say that yet. But here's what I will say about this gun so far. So before I go back to the optic and talk a little bit more about that, this is just like any other Glock 19. The only thing different about this Glock 19 versus one you would buy off the shelf is, of course, it's got the Aimpoint COA already mounted on there for you, and it's got a blacked out front sight and a blacked out rear sight that also serves as that part of that mounting system right there. Other than that, it's just a pure Glock 19, just like we know and love for the last 4 years. The only difference again is the optic that comes from the factory on it. Now, another unique thing about this is Glock has the rights to this setup for this year of 2025, and then I believe it does expire after that. So we may start seeing the COA optic and the A-cut system come to other platforms like the M&P or the Walther PDP after 2025. But for now, this is what we got. So let's talk about this optic. It's an Aimpoint. So I was interested from the get-go because that name carries weight. It screams quality. but I wanted to see it for myself, get it in my hands, see how I liked it. And what I can tell you about this Optic right off the bat is, number one, I'm going to flip it around right here so you can see the buttons. They're very easy to locate and operate. So I can turn the brightness up, turn the brightness down. And what is cool about that is I'm sitting here doing that and I feel and hear a click. And I know, I get confirmation that that I did turn up or down that brightness, whichever I'm trying to do. And that's important because about shooting on the range in a training session, I need to adjust that optic for whatever reason. I need to be able to know, oh yeah, I got it right there, that felt good. Okay, and the other good thing about it is the way that they're built into the Optic right here. You're not going to activate these buttons accidentally. So if I'm carrying this gun, which I have, I've tested, I've been carrying it for the last week and a half, I think, testing it as far as concealed carry goes, and I have not accidentally hit the adjustments here and changed the brightness of the dot. So that's been really good. The other thing is the adjustment here for up and down. This is our elevation adjustment here on the left side of the gun, and if we move it over to the right side of the Optic, then we get our windage adjustments. So they are very audible also, so when you're turning it to make those adjustments, you can also feel and hear those clicks. And that's so important when we're zeroing the pistol, because it's so finite when we're making those adjustments to make sure that we're getting this gun to hit point of aim, point of impact. So I always like it when the Optics have that real audible click and that you can feel it as you're turning, because we're talking about 2 or 3, 4 turns can make a massive difference in point of aim, point of impact at certain distances. So we really need to get that locked in. So that's really cool. All right, so that's the actual functioning of the Optic as far as the mechanics of that, of operating the brightness and getting it zeroed with the adjustments. Now let's talk about the actual dot that I'm seeing in the glass. So this is a closed emitter, obviously. So what does a closed emitter mean? It means that the LED emitter inside of this Optic is enclosed on both sides, meaning there's glass on the front, there's glass on the rear. And why is that important? Because one cool thing about enclosed emitters is that what it does is it prevents like lint or dirt, mud, things like that from blocking the emitter and keeping your dot from showing up. You say, well, it can still get muddy on both sides of the glass. Yes, but you can simply wipe it off. So it works and it helps, and I like the closed emitters. I've been shooting a Holosun EPS since they came out, and I really like that enclosed emitter. And I'm very happy to say I like this one just as much so far. It really works really well. It's got really clear glass, so when I'm presenting this pistol out and I'm on target, I'm threat focused. So whatever I'm shooting, that target, that part of that target, whatever area I'm going to, I'm looking at that and I'm waiting for that dot to superimpose on that target before I press the trigger. And the first thing I noticed when I first got this gun and did a little bit of dry work with it was just how clear that glass was. And it was almost like nothing was there except my dot floating in air. So some dots, depending upon the make and model, they have different levels of tint on the glass that are made to improve battery life and help with the electronics and all that stuff. I don't know a whole lot about that, but I do know I can tell when that blue tint is very heavy. And sometimes it just is distracting to me. So the clearer the glass, the better I personally like it. So with this Aimpoint COA, that's the first thing I noticed is just like, it's like there's not even glass there. It's that clear, which is amazing to me. And the dot is very crisp. It's a 3.5 MOA dot. So it's kind of right there in the, in that normal average size for the dots on the pistol mounted optics. I've been shooting a 2 MOA dot for the last several years, and moving over to this 3.5 has not been an adjustment for me at all. Actually, I think I may like it a little bit better because it's just a little bit bigger and I'm getting older, and those eyes, that's one of the great things about the optics is that they help us with our aging eyes or if we have eyesight trouble. So the next thing I want to talk about is for those of us with an astigmatism. So if you're like me, and I have a severe astigmatism, so I used to worry that maybe dots weren't for me, because what happens with the LED dots with astigmatisms is you don't see a round circle. you see a formation. And for me personally, it turns it into two little dots that are sitting right next to each other. Now I have contacts and I have prescription glasses that are made particularly for my astigmatism that makes that a somewhat round circle, but either way, the better the LED emitter is, the less the effect of the astigmatism has on the reticle for me. So that's very important. So that's the first thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at a dot is, can my eyes actually use this dot, or is it so bad that even my prescription lenses can't help fix that, and it makes the dot unusable? But I was happy to report with the Aimpoint, just like I expected, dot is very nice, and especially when I have on my prescription, then I get close to a little round circle. It's very nice, and even without my correction, I can still use this dot very well. So very happy with this so far. What I will say about this, and what some people could find as a negative, is as you turn and look at this from that side, as if you were the point of view of the shooter, this is a very narrow dot. So what I mean is it's not as wide as the actual slide. It's about the same width. So that window housing is a little more narrow than what most dots for this size gun typically are. And every little small bit of real estate can matter. For me, it has not been an issue. I actually like it. I have no problem with the width or the actual window size as a whole. It works really well for me. I think it's a really good size. There's some really large window dots out there these days, like the Holosun 507 Comp or the Trijicon SRO or the new Vortex Defender XL that have these huge windows. My friend and trainer Akil Kadir calls it TV screens, and I laugh every time he says that because he's right. It's a huge window, but these are not. They're more of a traditional smaller window, kind of along the lines of the Trijicon RMR Type 2 and some of the dots that are known as for having the smaller windows. But it's incredibly usable. It's what I like is it's kind of squared off. What I've noticed for me personally, and eyes are fascinating things, everybody's different and sees things differently, but for me personally, the squared off housing makes it much easier for me to use the dot. I prefer that to a rounded off housing. So I think the way that they designed this with the square actually makes me like it a little bit better, because my eyes, adjust a little bit better to the square housing, and I don't see a whole lot of stuff. I really just see a superimposing dot when I press it out there on the target, and all of that just fades away. So to wrap it up, the new Glock 19 MOS with the Aimpoint COA, I think has a lot of potential. I still got to wait and do a little testing with this thing. Like I said, I'm not even to 1,000 rounds yet. I'm getting there, but until I get there and get a few more rounds through it after that, I'll know for sure. I want to make sure that this dot does hold up. I'll be honest, I don't treat my guns very badly. I take care of them, so it probably won't get beat and banged around. That'll take time. As I take it to training and do other things like that, eventually it will. But it'll be a little bit before I know for sure just how durable this thing is. But I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because I got a feeling it's going to pass the test. And if it holds up, I think this is going to be one of the better options out there, because I think Aimpoint and Glock hit a home run with the A-cut. I don't know that, we'll see, but I'm really excited about this, the way that this optic mounts into this gun. And again, time will tell, but I'm very excited about this. It's a great optic. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take this thing out and shoot it and see what it does for me. All right guys, so we're out here at the range. We just talked about the new Glock 19 collaboration with Aimpoint with the new COA optic. So I'm gonna shoot it a little bit here and do one thing. I don't like wasting time. So I'm out here at the range and I'm doing a review of this gun. So I said, why can't I do two things at once? I can show you this gun in action. I can show you a cool drill too. So this is one of my favorite drills that I like to do. I've got our PTC Q target up right here that we use in class. And what I have here is an 8-inch circle with a square inside of it. What this is representing is that thoracic cavity and that mediastinum area right there, which is one of the anatomically correct areas that we're trying to shoot to stop a threat. So this drill that I'm going to do is called the fade back drill. There's a lot of different variations of this drill, and there's a lot of different targets this drill can be shot on. The variation I'm going to do for this demo and to show you the Glock 19 COA in action is I'm gonna start at the 3-yard line and I'm gonna shoot 5 rounds. As long as I keep those 5 rounds inside of that 8-inch circle, I'm gonna move back to the 5, and then the 7, and then the 10. And what I do with this is I take it all the way back to the 25 if I can make it. And if I don't make it, then I know I got some things to work on. But for today, we're just gonna go back to the 10. Hopefully I can keep all those rounds in there and do my job and show you this drill. But really good drill to work on some accuracy and refining some fundamentals and make sure that we're accountable for each round that we fire. And it's a great drill. I love to do it. And we're going to see this COA in action, and most importantly, I get to give you some feedback on it, okay? So I'm going to back up here to the 3-yard line. I'm going to get my ear protection on. We're good to go here. So I'm going to do this drill from what we call a ready position. So I'm going to get face down range. I'm going to go ahead and get the gun out. Ready position right here. We'll press check, make sure we're hot. We're good to go. And I'm just gonna come up and I'm gonna fire 5 rounds. I'm not gonna go terribly slow, but I'm not gonna blaze it down either, because I'm trying to be accurate right here. I'm trying to keep all 5 rounds inside of that circle. Really, I wanna keep them in the square, but I'll do the best I can. We'll see what we do here. But here we go, 5 rounds from the 3. Hopefully we can get this done. All right, so remember, when we're coming back to the holster, we're getting that cover garment clear. We're coming back, we're retracing those steps. We're getting that muzzle safely down range, out away from us, slowly, carefully, reluctantly, full firing grip all the way into the holster. All right, so let's take a look. We got 5 rounds. Not a terrible group right there. I like it. Still getting used to this gun, but that'll work right there. So we made it at the 3. Let's take it back to the 5, and let's see what we can do at the 5. All right, so back to the 5. Let's get the gun out. I'm gonna make an adjustment to the brightness level of my dot. Now, we've gotten a little shade out here. That's why I'm doing this. But here's the thing. We don't have time to adjust the brightness in the middle of a fight. That's why training is so important. I'm still learning this optic and what setting I need to keep it on that works in all different lighting conditions. So good little feedback right here on this dot. This gets very bright. So I just dropped it down 2 notches. I like what I see, and I think if I move over there in the sun, I will still have a good presentable dot. So hopefully that'll keep me where I need to be. So we'll keep working on that. So now we're at the 5. We're gonna try to get 5 in the circle here. Here we go. All right. We're gonna slowly, carefully, reluctantly holster. All right. So already we've moved back a couple of yards. I feel like those were more accurate than the first 5. That's okay. Getting a little bit of more feel for the gun, the trigger, and the optic. That's all right. So we've made it. We're gonna come back here to the 7, repeat this process. So we're good from 5. Let's see if we can stay good from 7. So same thing, here we go. 5 rounds. And slowly, safely, reluctantly holster. All right, so we've made it through 7 yards and we're doing pretty well. All right, so if you noticed and watched that right there, my rate of fire has picked up just a little bit because I'm really starting to feel this gun a little bit. So I'm liking where my hits are going, particularly because I'm firing those shots. I don't know, I don't have a shot timer. At least a ½ second, maybe a 0.4 cadence, which is about where that's mechanically sound cadence. They're not too fast, they're not too slow, but we're keeping those hits right in that mediastinum where we want them, pretty much inside of a 3x5 card, which is what I want to see, particularly at these distances. So we're heading back to the 10 now. And here's the thing about this. I just talked about picking up my rate of fire out to 7 yards. There's something magical as we start to go further back that requires a little bit more confirmation of sights, a little bit more trigger management, things like that. And this 7, 10, 15 yard line can be incredibly tricky. And you guys that shoot a lot know, shooting a pistol is not hard, but it sure isn't easy. And every little mistake that we make is very much amplified, particularly the further we get back at distance. So what I'm gonna have to do right here to get all 5 of these hits in there is I'm really gonna have to focus. It's gonna be all about the sights and the trigger. And I can tell you this, a little feedback with the COA, Aimpoint COA that we've got on this Glock 19, is that glass is so clear. I'm very impressed with that I feel like as I'm shooting with both eyes open and I'm acquiring my target and I'm focused on where I want to hit and I'm allowing that dot to superimpose there, that glass is so clear, I feel like I'm just looking at a dot that is just, I mean, it's just really nice. It's hard to explain, but it's one of the cleanest glasses I've ever seen on an optic, and I'm really hung up on that because I feel like that is a very beneficial thing. So I'm liking it. I'm liking what I'm seeing. So we're here at the 10, and let's see if we can get 5 more in here and finish this up right here. All right, sights and trigger, that's what this is about. And slowly, safely, reluctantly holster. And let's go take a look, because I let a couple get away. I got away with it, but I don't like where they are. So my math skills are not great. 3, 5, 7, 10, 20, what is that, 20 rounds? 6, yeah, 5 times 4 is 20. Forgive me. All right, so I don't like that. It's still in the zone and it's still okay, but that's what I love about this drill. This is not the Glock 19 and the COA optics fault. This is my fault because I let my trigger finger get sloppy at 10 yards. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning. The further back we go, our mistakes are amplified. So I saw the dot was where it needed to be, but what I did is I didn't do a very good job of controlling my trigger press as I pressed it back. And what I did is just jerk the trigger a little bit. Now, it wasn't much of a jerk, but it was just enough to see how far this pulled this round away from the rest of these rounds, because I can take my phone, which is kind of similar to a 3x5 index card, which is where I want all these rounds to be, and I can basically cover up everything except for that round. And that disappoints me because that's what I'm shooting for, okay? Another thing I want to point out about this grouping that has to do with the optic, and this is not a indictment on the optic. This is just part of, if you're going to have an optic, there's maintenance to it. So I have zeroed this dot and I have shot it, but I've noticed through my groupings and the patterns, and as you see here, if you draw a straight line, I'm shooting this gun a little bit left. So I'm going to have to make a little bit of an adjustment. Why I haven't done that yet, it's because I have not figured out yet if it's my trigger or if I need to adjust the optic. So now that I've shot it several times and I hadn't shot it since last weekend, which is, we're filming about 6 days past that, and I'm still shooting a little bit left, I'm going to start thinking I need to go ahead and adjust that optic a little bit, that it's not my trigger. So that's a good thing for me, but that's part of the process of shooting optics, is things like that happen and you have to determine, is this me or do I really need to make an adjustment to the optic? So for 3 range sessions now, I've left it alone, and it's been consistently left for 3 range sessions. And before we filmed this, I actually shot my current training gun that I've shot for the last 5 years, and everything's right here dead center. So this is an optic issue. So I know now that I've got to make that little bit of adjustment. All right, so just a little extra about optics right there, but let's look at what the COA did and let's look at what the G19 did. So Glocks kind of sometimes in certain circles get a rap for not being very accurate. I'll take that. I was not shooting slow. I could have slowed the pace a little bit and shot an even tighter group, and that's okay. But I'm trying to shoot at a somewhat defensive pace while I'm doing this, because that's what's going to pay off for me. So I thought the Glock 19 did a great job of holding a very nice group that's going to fit in a fist outside of my mistake. Everything is right there and did very well. And I'm really loving this Aimpoint COA so far. I am just having trouble finding anything I don't like about it. I think right now, as I come up on 1,000 rounds with this, it's going to come down to whether or not this thing is durable in the long run, which is, there's no way I can answer that until I actually have had it and have used it and ran it through some classes and gotten it beat and banged a little bit and just see how that holds up. But the early returns on this thing are great. So as we move forward, so far, I think this is a combination that I'm gonna really like and probably say, yeah, I think it's gonna be good to go. But again, time will tell, and we'll keep tracking this and we'll keep data on it. We'll do a follow-up video. I want to do another follow-up video on it when we get it close to about 3,000 rounds, Because at that point, I think I'll know. It's going to have so much recoil through it, and it's inevitably going to get beat and banged around a little bit. I'll be able to tell if it's going to hold zero, if that optic is going, the glass is going to hold up, but I'm pretty optimistic about it. So I think it's a great little option for us, and I'm really looking forward to the future to see how it's holding up as we get there. But I want to say this, because I alluded to it in the shop, is that at first when they announced this, I wasn't too excited about this, but as I've gotten it in my hands and I've studied that mounting system a little bit, and I've shot the gun, I've shot the optic, the glass is so clear and so nice. I think they might have a winner on their hands here. And for you guys that don't like Glock, I think it's not going to be that long before this optic might be available for the other platforms, and we might see some A-cuts coming on the M&Ps and the Walthers and all the other type guns out there, the HKs and all that. So really looking forward to seeing how this turns out. So we'll give you an update here in a couple of months probably, and let you know how this COA is holding up after it's got even more work in on it. All right, so we finished up shooting and doing a little testing with the COA today. And the last thing I want to do, the sun's at a perfect angle. And the sun and optics, man, they just don't play well together. Some play better than others with the sun. But I wanted to put this thing in the sun directly and press it out and look and see what happens. Because when the sun comes in and goes directly into that emitter, what we'll have sometimes, we'll have false dots, or just, it's kind of hard to explain until you see it, but you don't have one dot anymore. You have kind of multiple dots or streaks and things like that. And some optics handle it better than others. So again, we got perfect sun right now to test this, and I've got the sun coming directly on the emitter of this Aimpoint COA, and it is still pretty clean. I have very little disruption of my dot, not enough to even matter. I mean, I'm having to look for it. So just another positive about this gun, this optic that I'm finding out today, is I'm really happy and excited to see that no matter how I get the sun angled into that emitter, very little disruption of my sight picture, and my original dot is exactly like I need it to be, and there's not a lot going on there. So just another points in favor of the Aimpoint COA. All right, so that's a good little first introductory look at the Glock 19 with the Aimpoint COA as we're wrapping it up for today. Looking forward to doing a follow-up video of this down the road again as we get some more rounds through it and let you know. But for right now, Glock 19 Aimpoint COA, I think it's gonna be good to go.